She has recorded over 31 albums, and she performed at Woodstock. She introduced a young Bob Dylan to the world and became the subject of some of his most beloved songs. She's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. She's been performing for over 60 years. Yeah, Joan Baez is a force of nature, and her life is as amazing as it is inspiring. Let's find out more about Joan. Let's drop the needle. Joan Baez's father was born in Mexico, but her mother was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. And because of this mixed heritage, Joan says she experienced racial discrimination as a child. And this made her very social conscious. And it helped develop the activism that she had later in her life. Joan started singing and playing instruments at a very early age, and she said her voice is a gift. And what a gift it was. After she graduated from high school, she moved with her parents to Boston, Massachusetts, where she quickly immersed herself in the folk music scene. And in 1959, she and her friends recorded an album, which is called Folk Singers Around Harvard Square. That very same year was her first appearance at the Newport Folk Festival. And then a year later, in 1960, her first album came out, which was called Joan Baez. And the next year, in 1961, her second album was released, called Joan Baez Volume 2, which was quickly followed by recordings from the Newport Folk Festival, and they became Joan Baez in Concert Part 1 in 1962 and Joan Baez in Concert Part 2 in 1963. But 1963 was a very important year in music at the Newport Folk Festival. Joan Baez was appearing, and she was a big star by this time. And so in the middle of her set, she invites another folk singer to join her on stage, someone that most people had never heard of. And she introduced the world to the young Bob Dylan. They sang duets together, and then Joan actually left the stage. Now, some of the people in the audience were not happy about this because, as I say, Joan was the big star. And who is this Bob Dylan? Is he even going to be around in a couple of years? But Joan Baez continued to have Bob appear with her. And in doing so, she gave the young Bob Dylan a lot of credibility. Besides Joan's incredible voice and music prowess, she was an outspoken critic of the Vietnam War and appeared at many Vietnam War protests. In 1968, she married a fellow Vietnam War protester, David Harris. Now, unfortunately, not long after they were married, David got arrested for refusing to be inducted into the Army and was sent to prison. Now, while he was in prison, Joan gave birth to their son, Gabriel, who's now a musician in his own right. Unfortunately, not long after David Harris got released from prison, he and Joan got a divorce. But they remained good friends. Now, here's an interesting side point. Joan Baez had a relationship with Steve Jobs. And it's even rumored that Jobs asked Joan to marry him. Whoa, what a trip. Although Joan has recorded a number of albums, I'm just going to pick a few out of the collection to talk about. And I'm going to start with one that was released in 1968. It's called Any Day Now, and it is a double album of only Bob Dylan songs that she covers. Great tracks include Love Minus Zero No Limit. Love that one. You Ain't Going Nowhere. Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands, which some people think was written about Joan Baez, and some people think it was written about Bob's wife, Sarah. Other great songs are Love Is Just a Four-Letter Word and Boots of Spanish Leather. The First 10 Years album came out in 1970, and it documents Joan's 10 years of work with Vanguard Records. A lot of great songs here, including If I Were a Carpenter, There But for Fortune, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, Don't Think Twice It's All Right, and she even does a cover of the Rolling Stones song, No Expectation. Another album of Joan's I like is called From Every Stage. It's a double live album, and it came out in 1975. Now, one disc is acoustic, and the second disc is electric. On the acoustic disc, listen to Suzanne, I Shall Be Released, and of course, Blowin' in the Wind. And then on the electric disc, check out the great version of Love Is Just a Four-Letter Word, her amazing Diamonds and Rust, her cover of Bob's Lily, Rosemary, and the Jack of Hearts, and then also her great cover of The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, and, of course, Amazing Grace. Diamonds and Rust came out in 1975, and it was a big hit for Joan, partially because the first song, Diamonds and Rust, actually addresses her relationship with Bob Dylan. Other songs are Jackson Browne's Fountain of Sorrow, John Prine's Hello in There, and Dylan's Simple Twist of Fate. Joan has a rather complicated relationship with Bob Dylan. Right around this time, she joins him as part of the Rolling Thunder Revue tour that he did and went into a number of amphitheaters, and she appeared on stage with him many times, and the whole thing was filmed for posterity. A couple of years later, Bob took some of the footage and then added new footage and brought Joan back in to do some fictional stuff and recorded that as well and released a film called Ronaldo and Clara, but it was poorly received. And just recently, Martin Scorsese has gone back and looked at all the Rolling Thunder Revue footage and cut together his own film. Obviously, there was a lot of thunder in the Rolling Thunder Revue. Gulf Winds came out in 1976, and this is the only Joan Baez album where she wrote every song on the record. Standouts are Oh Brother, which is an answer to Dylan's song Oh Sister, and then there's the 10.5-minute Gulf Winds. Joan Baez continued to record, and her last album came out in 1981. It was called Whistle Down the Wind. So those are just some of the Joan Baez albums that I have in the collection that I happen to like. Obviously, there are many more. Go dig out her catalog and listen to this incredible talent. Now, at age 81, Joan has decided to retire just recently, and she said that the reason why is because her voice, as that gift, is now diminishing. And certainly I understand her point of view, but let's think about this. For 60 years, Joan Baez has given us incredible songs, incredible voice, and she was our social consciousness when we needed it the most. So I think it's fair to say that maybe your voice is kind of diminishing, but Joan Baez herself is a gift. So thank you, Joan, for the great music and the memories. And thanks everyone for watching, and keep a rockin'. If you liked this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.